I know that I've been uploading so much Final Fantasy VII Remake content the last couple of days. Thank you so much to those of you that have put up with it in your sub boxes. I hope it hasn't spammed you too much. But there's just so much I want to talk about with this game. And there are plenty of topics I've chosen not to make videos on, just so that I don't go too much overboard. But this is one subject that I have been thinking of myself, and since it now has a Reddit thread for it, I guess I'm not the only one. Perhaps it is worth discussing. So credit to this post goes to Solaceris. Sorry, probably mispronounced that. But it has to do with the way that the final boss is going to be, or who the final boss is going to be of the remake. Because obviously we know that Final Fantasy VII is being split into pieces for the remake, and that the first game is going to be focused on Midgar. And I've already made videos about that. But an interesting question is, how is the climax to this game going to work? We've already been told it is going to be a standalone experience. It is going to be a full game. Yes, one that's going to set up for the sequels, the rest of the Final Fantasy VII story, but still a full game in its own right. And in particular, the final boss is clearly a very, very important component of any game, let alone any role-playing game. And at the end of the day, how does Midgar end in Final Fantasy VII? With a fairly average fight against a boss called Motorball, a Shinra soldier, mechanical soldier thingy, that basically tries to stop you from leaving. You take care of it and then continue on with the adventure. It's not really an endgame boss, and let's be honest, it's not going to make the cut at the end of the remake as the main climax to the game. So this is just something that I've been thinking of, and as I say, we can see here that others have been as well. So let's just go through this post. Given we now know the first part of the remake is just Midgar, what could be the final boss? Nothing that currently exists seems to fit the bill. Rufus would be underwhelming. The big robot that chases you, that's Motorball, down the highway would be thematically unfulfilling. By the way, these are all going to be great bosses, I'm sure, in the game, and I expect them very much to be there, but not as the actual final boss of the game. So this person goes on to say they have two ideas that they think could be cool and round out the game on a high. Number one, you fight a Genova form at the end of the Shinra building. Well, narratively, that could certainly work. Of course, Genova is taken out of the containment in the original game. So, we do know that Genova's on the loose at that point. We will probably have seen quite a bit of Sephiroth. Once again, the trailers do show us Sephiroth, so we know he is going to be present in the game in some way or form, but mostly I'd imagine just in forms of flashbacks and false memories of Cloud, etc. And we know about Genova ahead of time, so this would be fitting and suitably epic. The escape sequence would be a coda following this climactic battle. Interesting idea. The game ends with the calm flashback sequence, maybe not even in calm, just Cloud telling his story. And the final fight is a one-on-one duel between young Cloud and Sephiroth in the Nibelheim reactor, with the ambiguous ending as per the original. This would leave the game off on a high and cements Sephiroth as the true threat for Game 2. Now, I'm not sure about the actual specifics here, whether this is something that Square will go with, as to setting Sephiroth up as a villain in the first game, but I do absolutely agree with the sentiment, the generality here, that Sephiroth must play a pivotal role in the first game, and there has to be a battle against him, at least at some point, in order to really introduce him as the franchise or as the game's main villain. So whether he's going to be the end battle in some form, whether, as we said, perhaps in the Nibelheim reactor in a flashback sequence, which I'm not sure if that would work, to tell you the truth, simply because Cloud wouldn't have been strong enough at that point, and neither would, the person whose memories that Cloud actually is occupying to have taken on Sephiroth. So maybe there could be some kind of battle at that point where the player gets absolutely destroyed by Sephiroth just to cement his power. But I'm not sure if that would work as a final boss fight. But something involving Genova, since Genova and Sephiroth are so tightly knitted together and whatnot, that could potentially be something that could happen here. And I think this is what the post draws out. So we know that Genova escapes from the Shinra containment towards the end of the Midgar sequence. This happens in Final Fantasy VII. And we don't get to really see Genova at that point. We just see the after effects of the escape. but we could have something integrated here where there is a boss battle, either with some Sephiroth clone, for example, that's come to help free Jenova, or with Jenova itself, or some form of Jenova. There's many forms that Jenova takes during Final Fantasy VII. Perhaps we could see something new here that we haven't seen before with Jenova. Or maybe some other kind of Shinra experiment that's had Jenova cells injected into it. There's definitely something disturbing and, you know, just soul-crushing that could really cement the whole process of establishing Jenova into the lore, and the importance of that in terms of how Sephiroth is going to be formed as a character. Like I said, those two are so knitted together that it's really important that we have some kind of sequence that demonstrates that, I think. And the ending to the first part of the Final Fantasy VII Remake could really use this as a great opportunity to climatise the end of that game with some kind of sequence where the player faces off against Jenova in some form. Because, like I said, having Motorball, come on guys, Motorball as the climactic end to the Final Fantasy VII Remake, that's just not going to cut it at all, is it? So clearly Square are not stupid. They know that something greater is going to have to occur, and I would be very, very surprised if it doesn't involve some form of Sephiroth or Jenova. But how exactly that's going to be integrated into the story is something I'm really interested in. So again, kudos to Solaceris, but please do share your thoughts, guys, in the comment section. How do you think Square are going to handle ending the Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 1 on a high note that just makes you really want to get into the next game with such a fantastic epic battle sequence, which we know has got to happen, but what form do you think that is going to take? Alright guys, well thanks for stopping by for the video today, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye. Well folks, thanks so much for stopping by the video today. Now perhaps I might be able to persuade you to come and join us over in the FuzzfingerGaming Discord channel. It's a great place where we can continue on with the conversation, and I'll leave a link to it down in the video description. Until next time guys, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.